On this edition of Icon, we put photography in focus and meet three of the world's greatest image makers. David Bailey, the man who exported London cool to the rest of the world.
The camera gave me an opportunity to do more than what I would have ended up doing.
Artist and filmmaker Julian Schnabel is inspired by a giant-sized Polaroid camera. Icon dives into David LaChapelle's world with exclusive access to his home in Hawaii.
It's a great location for photographs.
We begin here in London, the city which, in his own words, made photographer David Bailey what he is today. Born in the working-class East End, Bailey became identified with the most fashionable addresses in the West End of the capital during the 60s, but his influence would spread far beyond the city limits. I meet up with Bailey the day before the photographer's latest exhibition opens to the public. On display, a collection of photos for ID magazine.
It's all about people protecting themselves in a strange sort of way. Okay, she's protecting herself there because she's under an umbrella, right? Yeah. A very unusual umbrella, probably designed by a very unusual umbrella designer.
Do you enjoy doing exhibits and seeing your pieces up like this?
Not really, no.
No, why?
Once they're done, they're done. You coming tomorrow night?
I think so, yeah.
It'll be more fun tomorrow night, maybe, if anyone turns up.
The London set did come, with Bailey family in tow. Son Sasha's face and wife Catherine's bite adorn the gallery walls. It's been 50 years since Bailey first picked up a camera. In all that time, he helped to change the way of seeing fashion without falling out of it. He shook things up with a glint in his eye. Taken in 1967 by friend and contemporary Terry O'Neill, the Bailey caught here is in his prime, working on set, directing the model's pose. Always working, but these days, a paintbrush or clay is interchangeable with a camera. I was invited to Bailey's creative hub, both his family home and art studio in the English countryside. Did you always feel that way? Did you always believe in what
Well, no, I was always told I was an idiot, so I thought, oh, if I'm an idiot, I ignore what they want and do what I want. So, some people, they probably would have killed off being told you're an idiot by your teachers every day. In fact, it was worse than that. I used to get caned sometimes for not being able to spell, but I've made up for it since.
Yeah, I have.
It's like journalists used to call photographers monkeys.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but this one they didn't realise was going to turn into King Kong.
On the climb to the top, the blonde in Bailey's clutches was Jean Shrimpton. Together, photographer and muse brought sex to the pages of Vogue magazine. The pictures were a breath of fresh air.
Lots of people who did what I did fashion photography because in the 60s it was a way of being creative and getting some money. You know, photographers weren't treated very well in those days. I mean, it's an easy job to do, a bit like hairdressing if you're not careful. But because it's so easy, it's hard to go that extra, that's so cliche, but that extra mile or extra stop, extra F stop.
Bailey Bailey became master of the portrait. His subjects were stars on the rise, from the criminal underworld, notorious London gangsters, the Cray brothers, to heavenly creatures like French actress Catherine Deneuve.
Portrait is about the person. It's about about us meeting, isn't it? And when I photograph somebody, I sort of fall in love with them when I'm with them, and they become the centre for that brief moment.
Everyone who was going to be anyone stepped in front of Bailey's lens. He captured the faces that shaped the 60s and would influence the artists that follow.
We were all friends before we became famous, Mick and Jean. Everything's time and place.
Do you prefer black and white or color?
I prefer black and white because black and white's the instant message. When you look at colour, you look at warning things. You know, if a bird sees a green berry, he doesn't eat it. If he sees a red berry, he eats it. It's the same with colour in painting or photography, because you look at something and you see you look at you and you see blue. But if it's black and white, I see you straight away. Colour deflects. Colour's there to warn you not to touch it.
During the 70s and 80s, Bailey put down his stills camera and turned to filmmaking. His first commercial was an anti-fur campaign for the organization Respect for Animals. This beautiful catwalk scene will end in blood. The fashionable furs worn by the models bleed, turning onlookers red. Too graphic a scene to show sensitive viewers. The move into film would prove to be a fruitful change in direction, later earning Bailey recognition and plaudits in the advertising world. Bailey's latest sculptural work shows an exploration of primitive art, skulls in silver and bronze with lolling tongues, peeling back to see what lies beneath to discover something new. In the end, time and the audience will decide if Bailey's artwork will have as much impact as his photographs. Do you think you're successful?
I don't know what you mean by successful. I got 3 great kids. I got a wife that I'm mad about. I got a dog that I'm mad about. And what was the question?
Before the digital age, Polaroid cameras provided instant delight to half a century of happy snappers. Icon's Nick Glass traveled to New York to meet artist and filmmaker Julian Schnabel and a Polaroid camera unlike any you've ever seen.
What do all these images have in common? Different photographers with different visions and different ideas, but all of them use the same camera, the biggest instant camera we think in the world. The artist and film director Julian Schnabel has been using the big Polaroid since 2002. We joined him in his New York studio for a quick shoot. But first, let's meet the big camera itself, a camera you can't buy, only rent. The Polaroid Land does what it says on the box, making pictures 20 by 24 inches. The camera's so big, it comes in parts. This is a contraption, 19th century in look, that needs careful assembly. Only 5 models exist. 100 kilograms or so, 235 pounds, give or take, the rough weight of an American linebacker or a female gorilla.
What's special about the image?
Well,
besides the obvious fact that it's a one-of-a-kind print, there's kind of a dichotomy of you have this really large negative, and so you have a ton of information, and it's a contact print, so you get every little bit of that information. But at the same time, it's a dye diffusion transfer print, so chemistry is actually pulling dyes from one material to another, and so there's a softness in that process that's very painterly. So it has a lot of information, but also is quite soft and painterly at the same time.
So stand over here for a minute, Mason, and take off your shirt, please. I want to just sort of stand here.
The model for Schnabel's shoot was his amenable assistant, Mason.
I'd like to take a picture of him from here to here.
Or rather, Mason's torso and tattoos.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Schnabel works organically and quickly in natural light. He likes things to happen almost by accident.
Wow. It's very interesting because you don't have any tattoos, Mason. It's really cool. Your tattoos don't photograph.
Well, they didn't on the first Polaroid. Wrong exposure, it seems. They had more luck when they focused on a single Masonic arm.
Okay. Well, that's nice. There's something about the camera and about the film that it's like picking the kind of paint that you want to use. That's why I don't want to use another camera. That might be quicker, more, you know, you could do a million different things, but in the kind of cumbersomeness and the slowness of it, you can actually get something that's closer to real life or people pausing.
These big Polaroids are by Mary Ellen Mark, at 70 among the most revered of American photographers. The Pictures of Twins was a special project from 2003, taken during the annual Twins Festival in Twinsburg, Ohio. Mark is a portrait and documentary photographer. Everything is carefully lit. I try my best, she says, to make iconic images.
I fell in love with it immediately.
Why?
Because of the immediacy of it, because of how, I'm a documentary and a portrait photographer, but how people reacted to seeing their portrait so big immediately, and how you could look at it immediately, and how rich it was. I love working with it.
Her latest Polaroid essay is about the American high school prom.
It's an American rite of passage. Everyone that grew up in this country always remembers their prom and who they went with and what it meant. I think there are people that can make beautiful, digital images, but for me it's just, I have a certain way of working and a certain look to my pictures, and why do I have to change it now? Why, because I'm pushed by technology, do I have to change it? I don't understand that, I still have more to say, and I want to say it with film and with Polaroid.
Julian Schnabel showed us how he'd used the big camera to play around with time. His studio was transformed into a gallery of haunted, forgotten faces.
Leave that right there. That's good, right in the middle there.
The original pictures, just 3 inches across, he had found in France, unidentified mental patients from the 1890s. He had photographed them with a big camera and then enlarged the Polaroid as well. Schnabel, painter that he is, had added his own touches in purple.
Is it kind of an accidental thing? Like you're doing something else and you find these photographs, and it begins with that?
Yes. Yeah, but I do everything like that. I see paintings everywhere, not necessarily figurative paintings. I just see ways of making marks.
Of course, we live in a digital age. the big Polaroid's days may be numbered. There's only about 5 years film stock left. Schnabel has reserved some of it.
Wow, that is nice. See, that we want to photograph.
But tellingly, standing back and seeing a picture, he immediately snapped it like so many of us with his mobile phone. The big Polaroid stood poised to strike, a friendly dinosaur with a red head and a black tail.
A photographic homage to the old masters, humorous takes on modern pop culture, provocative and sensational. These are all the incredible visions of photographer David LaChapelle. Since pop artist Andy Warhol gave him his first job 20 years ago, big business, the famous and notorious have all clamored to be part of his fantasy world. At the peak of his career, LaChapelle made a lifestyle change, moving away from the celebrity-led commercial work that made his name and towards fine art. Icon was invited to his private Hawaiian hideaway to give us a personal tour of his home and studio.
I fell in love with it here. I never thought I'd live here or imagine that would be possible. When I'd first come here, you know, I had really felt I was at an end of a chapter in my life, which was that world of magazines, celebrity, and fashion. I had really nowhere left to go or nothing left to say in that venue. And I started with galleries, and then wasn't selling anything in galleries, and to make money I was shooting weddings and stuff. And this is in New York in the 80s, and living in the East Village, and I loved it, and I would do anything I could as long as it involved photography. And then I got a job with Interview with Andy Warhol. Andy said, you know, whatever you do, just do whatever you want, just make everyone look good. That was the only real piece of advice he ever gave me. The other stuff I learned from him was really just by observing, and that really gave me my start, which led me to magazines, which led me to working pretty much for magazines for a good 20 years. I had to make a drastic change, and coming here was that change. And when I read about people that I photographed, you know, who have died with drugs and things and sleeping pills, and it really, I know that it could have been me. Every morning when I come out of my cabin, it's like an Easter egg hunt. Over here's the bathroom. It's really beautiful to be able to take a bath in the day or night, you know, just out in nature. It's really something special. This is where I sleep and where I live. The artwork that I want to make now, I want to make things that are special, that mean something to people, and that that they can understand. That idea of communication is so important to me. It's crucial. So I need to have clarity, and the only way for me to have that clarity is to turn everything off and to be alone in the jungle. This is our biodiesel banger. Runs on vegetable oil. It's amazing having this studio here so we can actually take the pictures that we've shot here and work on them pretty much immediately. This is a shot we did in the jungle right near in the holly forest, and it's part of the Paradise Regained series, and I saw these trees, these holly trees, and these sort of veins, these roots, you know, going into the ground. I just imagined this sort of transfusion, and having had been hospitalized in a psych ward, coming out of that, and then coming to Paradise, which is really healing, you know, this was sort of the kind of a personal picture, but at the same time I think it's pretty universal because of the healing effects of being in nature. The basic photograph is there. People think it's all created digitally. It's not. These scenes took place. it's a collaboration, and I work with really talented people. The Deluge is a photograph that I did, much like the Michelangelo's Deluge from the Sistine Chapel, where he portrayed sort of the floodwaters rising. Well, I did this idea of the flood of the future, but instead of it being scary, it was sort of everyone's helping each other. It was very hopeful. So it's sort of the best of humanity rather than our animal instincts coming out. So this is about 3 minutes from my cabin, but it's also a location. I mean, it's such a striking, beautiful, and natural black sand beach, and the volcano formations of rocks. It's a great location for photographs. And two of the photos that I've done here were the images depicting Michael Jackson. His life is really biblical in its epicness and its influence, and to go from being the most famous person on the planet to almost reviled and persecuted by the media, to me, you know, it's a modern-day martyr. I want people to walk into a museum or gallery and feel different from when they walk out. I want to touch them, and like music touches people, you know, music sort of instantaneously touches people in such a profound way, and I want my photographs to have that power. That's a goal, but you know, it's something I strive for.
And that is it for this edition of Icon. I'm Monita Rajpal in London. Thank you for watching.